just a magic wand you can wave that will help everybody listening.
Yeah, this is how you do it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just if
The biggest setback would have been we used referrals as our only means of getting clients. We did lose a client to acquisition or to whatever. We didn't have an easy way to replace that client. Understanding what our industry metrics were was probably one of the biggest steps that we took. We thought we were spending a whole lot on marketing. We're like, oh, we're spending a ton. And we're going, oh, wait, we're actually less than what we should be spending.
All right, we're here today with Karla Zehnder, CEO of Hodgson Consulting and Solutions. They're based out of Buffalo Grove, Illinois, which of course is a northern suburb of Chicago. Karla is a designated registered practitioner trained in CMMC methodology. She specializes in helping companies that contract with the DoD prepare their organization's cybersecurity programs, policies, and procedures for compliance with CMMC. Welcome to the My First Million podcast, Karla.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's dive right into the beginning. Can you take us back to what motivated you to get involved in this IT services, MSP space? What some of your initial goals were?
Sure. It was actually an interesting way we got it started. So my partner is actually my husband, named Robert. And we ultimately started, we both had our careers, and we decided we wanted to grow our family. So in order to grow our family, we needed to grow our income. And with that, he looked at his job and he's like, well, I'm not really going to be able to get any higher than where I am right now because there was just really no room for advancement there. So he's like, you know what? I could do some side work for IT. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. So he took it on to some side work. But as he progressed, getting a few clients, he was working with a lot of small businesses. He started to see a pattern and he realized that the small businesses were getting taken advantage of by the larger corporations. So something that would have only taken maybe, they were charging, larger companies were charging thousands of dollars, what would have only taken probably hundreds of dollars to fix. So he came home, he was constantly kind of bothered by that. And so one day he came home with this really bright idea. He goes, hey, let's start a business. I'm like, no. What do you mean start a business? So I'm like, I thought he was being silly because he's kind of a jokester. And he was like, no, seriously. He's like, I'm tired of seeing this keep happening to these small business owners. I mean, these companies, they work hard. They're trying to provide something and they're just keep getting ripped off. And yeah, I wasn't swayed at first. It took a lot of convincing, but after I stopped and I thought about it, and I was like, I saw his frustration. And then I saw, I guess what you call his passion for really wanting to help those small businesses. I'm like, you know what? I don't know what we're signing up for, but let's do it. And fast forward 25 years later, here we are.
Yeah. So as you put together this company and you're growing it and scaling it, I'm sure it couldn't have all been just a rosy path. Do you have any recollection of any major setback or failure you experienced along the way that you'd be willing to share, and how you overcome that or overcame that?
One of the setbacks that we had in the very beginning was it kind of goes along with just biting off more than you can chew. That was one of the biggest things. I mean, we were taking on clients that weren't necessarily a right fit, but also I think actually the bigger piece of that is the biggest setback would have been the fact that we only used referrals as our only means of getting clients. That would actually probably be our biggest setback, because what happened was when we did lose a client to acquisition or to whatever, we didn't have an easy way to replace that client. And dealing with clients just on referrals is sporadic. And then you reach a point where you don't get a lot of referrals because of the fact that people only know so many people. So if you did lose a client for whatever reason, it took a while to be able to replace that revenue because we didn't have a systemized approach to do so. So that caused a lot of problems for us trying to figure it out. Like I said, we lost a client, there's income to be replaced. What do we do now?
Yeah, so you think that getting that kind of those multi-pronged marketing approaches and kind of those, I mean, we call them a TMT, they call them marketing oil wells, but getting that kind of repeatable way of filling the funnel is a game changer for you.
It's a huge game changer. Having a systemized approach to marketing and sales, knowing that you have a predictable way of getting a new client, it makes it. I mean, they don't come. I mean, it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's like, they come so easy. No, but they come more predictably. If you do the right activities and you're pushing forward, and you're running a process to get more clients in, you're strategically marketing. Like I said, we're doing the IT Manager Summer School. We do webinars, like I said, newsletters, direct mail, different campaigns that we put out for our different clients. That's allowing us a predictable result. So yes, absolutely, having that was a game changer for us.
Excellent. So I've spoken to a number of business owners, especially from the beginning. You launch and you're getting your footing and all. I'm really curious of how you'd answer this about managing the cash flow and the financial planning from kind of where you start out and you're starting to grow. Do you have any insight to that? Just a magic wand you can wave that will help everybody listening.
Yeah, this is how you do it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just if.
Well, in the beginning, we didn't have anything. I mean, like I said, we didn't know, and we didn't know what we didn't know. So the first thing we started to try to figure out was, what does good look like? Even the very basics. What does good profit margin look like? How much should we be spending in operations or salaries? And understanding what our industry metrics were was probably one of the biggest steps that we took. We actually, when we started to try to figure out the answer to these questions, one of the first things we did is we read a book, Profit First, by Mike Michalowicz.
Yeah,
that was easy to understand. I was never big in the finance. My partner usually took over the finance aspect of it. So, reading that book, it was laid out really simply in an easy to understand format that I could start to build a spreadsheet around what percentage we should be spending in operations, or how much of the revenue should be going to certain things, and what kind of profit we should be getting. So from that was the basis that started everything. From there, we've grown into other methodologies, from more advanced, simple numbers. We've used that. That's Greg Crabtree, Paul Cecil, who is a huge whiz in our area as well. All of his teachings and education. So from there, we've been able to build. So right now, we've developed spreadsheets where we can do a 5-year roadmap of growth using the percentages of best-in-class percentages, so we can see where we are now and where we want to get to later.
Yeah, can we just dig into that a tiny bit? So I think a lot of, I know I ran a sales and marketing department, so for a company grew to about $5 million or so. So I was managing these big budgets. Do you find that really road mapping out where you think you're going to be is an essential skill or task? I had found that there was derivatives to that I hadn't thought of as benefits that you kind of see for the bigger picture. Do you find that to be a great guide point for you? Or
it's a huge guide point, because what it forced me to do was sit down and take a look at where we actually are. Because if you're not tracking it, how does Robin say it? If you can't measure what you don't measure, So we had to figure out first what our baseline was. Where are we? Where do we want to go? And then we started to look deeper into, how much were we spending on salaries? Okay, maybe we're overspending in this particular area, because he gave us specific percentages for each area of the business. So are we spending? We thought we were spending a whole lot on marketing. We're like, oh, we're spending a ton, and we're going, oh, wait, we're actually less than what we should be spending, and we should be spending, more in this area and less in this area. So it was allowing us to get a better gauge and a better handle on our metrics. We look at it if it's time to hire. Have we reached our budget in our hiring right now? How can we maximize that? The people that we have. It's been crucial for us to map that out, because seeing it in black and white is very eye-opening and enlightening.
Yeah, so I've heard you mention a few times in here, that you learned from Crabtree or Michalowicz, or you got that notion over here, I'm curious how you feel that continuous learning and being part of community has helped you on this path to success.
Honestly, the continuous learning has been crucial. So we've been surrounded by experts, at TMT, being part of that community, coming in and having experts in all different areas. When we first started a while ago, it was marketing. We learned marketing. Now, granted, I will admit that this was like almost like a degree in marketing, the level of marketing that we did learn with there. So it was a deep, an in-depth thing of marketing. But this team has a way of knowing what we need. So the best thing about it is where we think we've like, oh, wow, we've reached a point where we're doing well in our business. We've gotten the marketing. So then you guys introduce like, oh, it's time for sales. Here, now get that process. Let's bring in all the experts. So all the experts will come in from sales. There's mentorship, business, different types of business, mindset, tons of different experts that we get to learn from and ask questions to right there. In addition to having our peer groups that we can, have others in our industry sit down, we can talk at the same table and understand how, they're doing business, how we're doing business. That whole ecosystem of continuous education has been immensely beneficial. I mean, I couldn't have gone to one school to get this kind of education. There's just no way.
Yeah, it's a great point. You mentioned earlier that part of the drive to start this business was because you wanted to build a family and look at income potential and all. So you have any tips or thoughts or how you tackle trying to maintain a work-life balance while you're doing all this?
Balance? What? Okay.
Or actually, insert word.
All right. Well, when we first started out, there was no such thing as balance. So we did the best we could. We did what we had to do. But now we learn with rhythm. I would say goals and meeting rhythms have been the key to us being successful with the work-life balance type thing, if that's what you want to call it. So what we do, so every year we plan for our business, right? We look. The goal is to look at our business at the end of the year, what we want to project for the following year. So what we decided to start doing is take my partner and I, like I said, since it's my husband, we leave for a weekend and we do our annual planning for the business, but we also take a day to do annual planning for the family.
Oh.
So so over the year, you have their school calendar, you know what days they're off, and we deliberately schedule our vacations that time. Some of them we can book, but some of them are too far in advance. So we book our vacations, schedule or book our vacations during that time, and then plan for different events that we want to do over the year. Then just like for our quarterly meetings in our business, we sit down and we go over our quarter, what happened in our business. We also say what happened in our family, and then what do we want to plan for the following quarter? Do we have hockey any hockey things going on? Is there anybody in dance, or what other events are coming up? And our commitment has always been to our kids that at least one of us will attend their events. That has been hands down. They just want to look up in the crowd and see somebody's face, mom or dad. They love both, but we've made that commitment that at least one of us will make the time to be at the events. So doing those goals and rhythm setting, just like we do our business for our family, has been hugely beneficial for us. And the kids, they understand and love it.
I think that's really insightful because, we think these, tools work for planning over here. Why wouldn't they work in the other realm? Right. I think that's really great advice. So if you could go back in time, it's the time machine question, and you're your younger self and you're starting. I know you mentioned a few things that you would do differently. Any other things you could think of? Let's imagine that we're talking to now some MSPs who just launched and they're trying to figure it out. If that was, if you could go back and tell that person, your younger self, any other tips?
Well, my younger self, I probably would have said, listen to your dad. Because my dad would always say, well, I had trouble with indecision. So I didn't want to make, and it happened in business early on as well. But the problem was I didn't want to make the wrong choice. So I'm like, and even in business, like I said, my partner and I, we still go back and forth with this sometime. It's like, should we do this? Should we serve this industry? Should we, what should we do? What's the right choice and what's the wrong choice? And I always hear my dad in my head. He goes, Karla, you can't steer a parked car. And I'm like, and back when I was a teenager, I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? What do you mean a car? I'm talking about this. You're talking about a car. He's like, look, you can't steer a parked car. As long as you get up and you go in a direction, even if you realize that's the wrong direction or you don't want to do that anymore, you could always course correct. You could turn around. He's like, but you can't steer a parked car. So I take that today to all the decisions that we make. So instead of sitting there in the land of indecision, the fact that you're even making that decision puts you into the top, 5% of people on the planet probably that are actually making a move. So my advice to these to the new ones coming out, you can't steer a parked car, guys. Just make a decision and go.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's next for your business? What are your mid or long-term goals you're looking for?
Well, we want to continue to grow. I mean, my aspirational goal would be the top choice solution provider in our region. But on addition to that, I also want to be the place that our clients want to do business with and employees want to come work for. So developing that and making that's the trifecta right there. That's what I'm looking to build. And that's the direction we want to go.
I'm going to kind of loop back here. How do you feel do you spend a lot of time on like the company culture? I know we talked about hiring and all, but is that a key piece? I've heard that a bunch of times, retention wise, but also to enjoy coming to work because of who you've surrounded yourself with.
Yes. Company culture is huge for us. We have our core values, and like I said, we hire people that live up to those core values because that's who we want as a company culture. But we use those as in coaching our employees. We use those in different ways. So, for example, if a technician is not filling out their tickets correctly, we are one team is part of our core values. We'll have a discussion with them and say, as part of this team, as being one team, this is your role. Like a lot of people look at company. We used to have employees say, "Oh, it's like one big family." I'm like, it's more like a team because teams, everybody has a role and everyone is responsible for that position. My goal with our team is to know at all times that since we are one team, if I trust you to do what you're doing so I can do what I'm doing. I don't have to stop and think about it. So when you have that type of communication going on with the employees, also on top of that, CANI, constant and never ending improvement, a culture of learning where the older engineers will talk to the younger engineers and there's cross references. We built that culture of education. So, for example, we don't sit separately from our engineers. So we don't have our help desk section and we don't have a server guy section because all you'll learn in those areas is to be a really good desktop guy or a really good server guy. We sit together in pods. So it's holistic for the entire company, for the entire client, where that way a junior engineer can actually sit next to a senior engineer and learn. And it fosters that connection and just discussion and that education. So also the other core value that we have, well, we have several, but one of the ones that is, I think, probably my favorite is extreme ownership. That is huge. Do what you say you're going to do. If you mess up, fix it. No excuses, just fix it and we can move on. But having that level of ownership within the team, knowing that the person next to you is going to handle it, it makes such a more safe environment to know that you can come to work, get your work done, your team mates are going to be where they're supposed to be. It just starts to build on top of that. And we do things like annual events, quarterly events. This past week, they all went out over the weekend and had a party and things of that nature. So we do a lot of those things as well. But company culture is the big. I'd rather hire for culture than skill because skill can be taught. But if you have those characteristics all encompassing, then it's definitely somebody I would want to work for us. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like this kind of crazy experiment of you guys starting up a business is working out pretty well. Yeah, you would go back and change that, I guess. I mean, we always love working with you. I mean, I personally enjoy, anytime we get to chat. I really appreciate you coming on here and taking the time to share your experiences, and I just wish you the best luck in the future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like I said, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care.